Okay, so we've had a fantastic result so far with this deal analyzer. The night rate, the price analysis has been super strong at £196 per night. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to sign off this deal analyzer, because we still need to look at the overall suburb to make sure it's going to work for us. So what I'm going to take you through now is what I call my 6 Cs. Exactly what I thought. No expense spared with the artwork. I look after you guys. Okay, so the 6 Cs is my strong rule-based system. What I've also done on my YouTube channel is I've broken down the individual 6 Cs into smaller videos. So if you want to go and learn more about capital, you can go to that video and go and watch it. But I'm going to talk through all three of them right now and talk around the suburbs in Manchester that we've been particularly been looking at. So again, at this stage, we're not looking at individual properties. We're making sure that that suburb, that area, is a great place to invest in. Now, it shouldn't matter what 3-bedroom property we buy. What matters is the area. There's enough drive to that area that's going to create us a revenue to make sure we can pay all the bills within the property and make great returns on investment. So let's start to go through this. So 6Cs number 1 is capacity. So what I mean by this is my sweet spot, what I go after, is 3 to 4 bedroom properties. Now, it's quite surprising that any suburb within a town or a city, sometimes their property stock is completely different to another suburb. There's many suburbs out there that don't have 3 to 4 bedroom properties, not only available on Rightmove or Zoopla, but available at all. They haven't been built there. Some suburbs only have 2-bedroom properties or 2-bedroom terraces. So we have to make sure, first of all, that the suburb that we're looking at has 3 to 4 bedroom properties. And the other reason why it's a sweet spot for me is, as you should know by now, I flip between 2 property strategies: service accommodation and family let. So if you've got a great service accommodation property and it does really well for 4 or 5 years, but then the economy changes in that area and you need to flip it to a family let to still get that great return on investment, what you're now looking at is renting that property out to a family. Are they gonna rent a 1 or 2 bed property? Probably not. The analysis says that families look to get a 3 to 4 bedroom property to allow their family to grow, to have a driveway, to have a bigger garden, to have their 3 to 5-year-old children play in the garden, and for the father and mum to play soccer or whatever sports it is in that garden. They're looking for a larger dwelling to live in and to grow. So the sweet spot is always, for me, a 3 to 4 bedroom house for service accommodation and family let. So I've done a bit of research into this particular suburb in Manchester we're looking at, and yes, there are 3 to 4 bedroom properties available right now on Rightmove and Zoopla, and there's more properties, there's more stock within that suburb where those properties could become available at a later time. So on this point here, the 3 to 4 bedrooms gets a huge tick in the box. The next one, this one can be a little bit complicated sometimes, but what we're looking at is, with our serviced accommodation property, we're always looking to get at least 2 singles in one of the bedrooms. And there's a massive reason for this, because if someone books out your property, not everyone's in a partnership, not everyone's in a relationship. You could get 2 grown men, for example, that obviously may not be in a relationship, and they want their own separate beds. So we need to be able to give them 2 separate beds within the same room. So what we're looking at here before you buy a property is to go and view it, of course, but you can also look at the floor plans. So you can look at the measurements within that bedroom to make sure you can put 2 single beds in and a bedside table in between. Okay, so I've done a bit of research on this. I've looked at those properties, I've looked at the floor plans, and I'm more than comfortable at this stage those properties we can fit in 2 single beds. So again, that gets a huge tick in the box. Now, the last one for capacity is the 14 different guest types. With service accommodation, yes, we do have that many different types of guests. Now, what I wouldn't do, once I've done my research, I wouldn't invest in a suburb that only has 2 or 3 guest types. Because if something happens to big business, if something happens to industry or the economy in that area, you could lose those guest types and then your bookings go down. But if I've got a variety of guest types, I get continued bookings throughout the entire year and not just the summer months. Okay, so you need to make sure. Now, in the suburb that I'm looking at, I reckon we've got 9, which is fantastic. Now, I wouldn't buy a property, again, like I said, that has 3 or 4. My limit would probably be about 6. But on this one, we got 9. So again, that gets a massive tick in the box. So capacity gets signed off. The next C that we look at is city. So I'm going to play a little game here first of all with you. Okay, so we've got some scales here from 1 to 10. So 1 being the Bronx and 2 being Manhattan. Okay, so we should know what towns they are. So the Bronx is a very, very rough place that I don't want to go to and I don't want to buy property in. Manhattan is a big, shiny city that's got everything available and everything on your doorstep. So if I ask you this question right now, using a scale of 1 to 10, so 10 being Manhattan, 8 and 9 being on the outskirts of the city centre in terms of walking distance, 5 somewhere in the middle of the two towns, and number 1 being the Bronx, the rough place, where would you want to invest? So on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you buy that house? And I'll tell you mine right now, which might surprise you, but my sweet spot is 2 to 3. So just on the outskirts of the Bronx, and there's 2 main reasons for this. Reason number 1, if you do buy service accommodation and put it in that location, once you've done the property up, done the refurb, furnished it, and you've got a professional photographer to go in to do your photographs, it looks really decent. And as long as your property has really good road networks to the city centre or other attractions, most people don't really care about what area it's in, and most people that book those properties don't know the area anyway. So if it's just on the outskirts of the rough area and not in the area, it won't affect you. It won't affect your bookings. The other big tick that I'm going to give you is, now, if you have a service accommodation property here and a service accommodation here, if they're fundamentally the same size, the same number of beds, decorated and furnished the same, guess what? Your night rate will be almost the same. The only difference is you've paid £500,000 to buy a property here, but I've paid £150,000 to £200,000 here. So as a property investor, it makes sense to buy a house here in between 2 and 3 at a lesser value than go into the shiny city and buying a property at a more expensive rate. Why would you do that? Why would you invest in a property where you're paying more money than you would here? Doesn't make sense. The other thing as well is, the other reason why I buy here is because if you look at the statistics, property in these areas on the outskirts of the city go up in value a lot quicker. So in this city now there's more flats and properties like that where the younger generation will go and rent a flat for a couple of years. But as they get older and they fall in love and they get a partner and they have children, they're looking to move to the suburbs to buy a bigger property to have that family experience. And if you also look at most towns and cities around the UK at the moment, regeneration on the suburbs, on the outskirts of the towns, is happening more and more and more, becoming a lovelier place to live. There's more investment going into those places. That's why right now in the UK, it's a fantastic time to buy in this scenario between the 2 and 3. So hopefully you understand that. The other point with city as well is multiple suburbs at work. So going back to the start of the video, where we had the map here of Manchester, I identified 12 different suburbs that my deal analyzer was going to go to work in. What I wouldn't do as a property investor, if I've got 12 suburbs in one town and only one suburb works, I wouldn't invest. I wouldn't invest in that town or city. Why? Because if something happens in that suburb, the economy changes, the industry changes, the tourism aspect changes, that suburb is dead for me. And all the other parts of the town didn't work anyway. So why would I invest in that? It's not right. It's a dangerous tactic to use. So I like to make sure when I'm doing my deal analyzers for any town or city, I get a number of those suburbs to work for me. So if I'm looking to buy property and I can't buy the property that I want in my favoured suburb, in my gold mine area, I've got another suburb that I can buy property in because multiple of them work around the town or city. So again, looking at the analysis of the 12 suburbs that I've done, we had 7 that passed. Fabulous. That now really tells me that the footfall, the clientele, the tourism, contractors, work-related stuff, people need to rent out service accommodation because it works in multiple areas around that town. So again, the city in this suburb got a huge tick in the box. So now we move on to the next one, which is capital. And this is massively important for property investors. So we're going to start with equity growth. Now, I wouldn't buy a property in London, for example, at the moment, and I probably never will, because the equity growth from 2023 onwards is going to be sort of pretty slow. I wouldn't invest in a town or a city where the equity growth is either going to dip down or flatline. I'm looking for areas in the country where house prices are going to continue to increase. Because what happens is, when I buy a property, I look to remortgage it every 2 years to take that equity that's been made out tax-free, and I can then use that to buy more property, the compound effect, okay? So looking at the suburbs that I've been looking at the moment, I'm using other websites like the Office of National Statistics, I'm using Savills, I'm using other websites to gauge the equity growth, the house price increases within that town or suburb, so I can then calculate on my 5-year forecast how that property is going to increase and how I'm going to use that equity growth to buy more property. So after a bit of research, I know that in year 1 and year 2, very conservatively, we're going to get a 4% increase. I know in year 3 and year 4 and year 5, it's going to start to go up, but conservatively, I've put in a 5% increase on year 3, year 4, year 5, which is absolutely fantastic. So again, equity growth in that suburb wins, gives me a tick in the box. This next one is super simple. I always make sure we've got a population of over 80,000 people. Now, some people say, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, this is serviced accommodation. We have 14 different guest types, from tourism to contractors to workers, for different reasons why people would book out their property, not just in the summer months, but from January, December, all year round. We need those different types of guest types. If I was to buy in a more rural area just for tourism, that's a holiday let. This is not holiday let that we're doing serviced accommodation. So I must make sure the population's over 80k. Manchester, yeah, of course, it's over 80k. Okay, the next one, 5 miles from the city centre. So in the first part of the video where we have the map here, I ring fence 5 miles from the city centre. I'm only looking at suburbs within a 5-mile radius of the city centre. So we know that one, we know it. So we've done that. The next one is, again, is super important. This sounds quite basic, road networks. What does that really mean? So what I wouldn't do is, if I've got a fantastic suburb that works really well, but the property that I'm looking at is down a country lane, it's out the way, there's potholes, it's an unmanned road where the council don't fill in the potholes or make it nice, I wouldn't invest there. Also as well, if you've got a brand new housing estate with 2,000 homes that have been built, all shiny and new, which would be fantastic to buy, but the property that's available is at the back end of the estate, and you've got to go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right to get there, and it takes 6 or 7 minutes to drive there, I wouldn't invest in that property. Because when people are looking to rent out serviced accommodation, potentially that location could put them off. Or if they do book it for the first time, they may not go back because there'll be other properties at the front end of the estate or in the local area that has better road access to the train station, to supermarkets, the town centre, to the tourist attractions. So the road networks where your individual properties are that you're looking to purchase need to be by fantastic road networks that give them easy access to the things they need to get to. Hence why you need to understand your different client types based on their road networks and how they're going to travel and move around the city. So it's super important. Now, again, looking at these suburbs that I'm looking to invest in, and potentially the little hotspots where I'm looking to buy property, I make sure my road networks are really good. So it makes it easier for my clients to get around. Next one, public transport. Always make sure that with service accommodation or family let, they're within 2 miles of a train station. Not everyone drives. People want to commute from A to B, or from Manchester to London, or Liverpool to Leeds. So being near a train station is super important. Also as well with buses, they need to have a bus stop somewhere near their home so they can get on the bus and go into the town centre, get on the bus and go to work. Always need to make sure of that. So again, I've done the research, and it's within that 2-mile radius from the train station and within a short walk from a bus stop. Now the next one, schools. This is just for family let. So if you've got service accommodation and you flip it into a family let, you need to make sure as a backup that that property is near some really good schools. Go onto the Ofsted report and make sure those reports for those schools are fantastic. Make sure that they're the best schools in the area, because if you do have to flip it into a family let, that is a great attraction to why someone would rent out your 3 to 4 bedroom property, because schools are so important. Having fantastic schools near your property is an absolute winner. So again, done the research on that, and there are schools nearby with fantastic reports. So we're doing really, really well on this one. It seems to be a fantastic suburb for us to invest in. Now the next one is cash flow. Now you've seen this a few moments ago, how we've generated the cash flow and what it starts to look like. So at 50%, my target is to break even. But as you know, on the deal analyzer, I think we hit £683 at breaking even. So we're breaking even in the 30%, which is around day 9 to day 11 of the calendar month, which is absolutely fantastic news. So again, massive strong start. Our next hurdle at 70% occupancy levels, so that's 21 days of the calendar month, we want to hit a minimum of £750 once all bills are paid. And we hit £1,400, doubling our target of 750 quid, which is fantastic news. So the cash flow hugely passes the deal analyzer check, which is fantastic news. The next one, so number 5, and again, this is a make or break rule. What we're looking to do, and this is again, is just family let, okay? This has nothing to do with service accommodation, but we must check it because we're using 2 strategies here, is that I look to market the property on Facebook or put a post up in the post office. So what I'm looking to do here is to find out if anyone in the local community would want to rent the 3 to 4 bed property that I'm looking to purchase. Now, what you can't do here is you can't advertise a property that you've not purchased out for rent. You can't do it. So what you do is you say, I have a property on such and such a road. It's becoming available soon. It's a 3 to 4 beds. It's in this area. Is anyone looking to rent property? Do you know anyone like that? So you can put that type of message on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. You can put advertisements in the post office where you could do that for free, or you may have to pay £5 to do a little advert somewhere. So what I'm looking for, in 1 week, I'm looking for a minimum of 5 replies. If I get 5 replies to my advert, I know there's demand to rent out a 3 to 4 bedroom property. So if that happens, it then gets a tick in the box. Now, I've not done that just yet. So this one is a maybe. It's waiting to be actioned. So it's on hold. And I won't sign off this suburb until that's been done. Okay? And then the last one, so number 6, is contingency. Now, we've got a budget of £170,000. Okay? That means, sorry, we've not got a budget. We're targeting property for £170,000. So that means we've got a budget of £65,000 to put down 25% for the mortgage, pay for the refurbs, pay for the fit out of the service accommodation. But what we want to do with the contingency fund is put 5% of that aside just in case something happens to the property once the service accommodation is up and running. So for example, on day 1, you've done all the refurb, it's on booking.com and you're ready for bookings. What happens if bookings are really slow for the first couple of months? Where's the money going to come from to pay the mortgage, utility bills and anything else? That's what the contingency fund comes on. So 5% of the property value is £8,500, which comes out of your budget. So what you have is that £8,500 that sits underneath the property. So it pays for anything that is needed. Okay? What happens if the boiler breaks down? You'll get a plumber in. What happens if there's a storm and some tiles come off the roof? You'll get a roofer in. All that expense can happen. What I don't want to do as a property investor is keep investing into a deal. I want to take money out of the deal. So what you need to do is have that contingency fund, that 5% of the property value, £8,500, sat in that bank account, and that is used to pay for any unforeseen circumstances. Now I know, with my rule-based system, I know through my hard work and my cash flow that property is going to do well. So what happens if something does go wrong? I know it's there. No more money for me into the deal. But over time, as I start getting that revenue come in and I start getting that profit, what I'll do first of all, my bank account, I will let it grow to £17,000. Once I hit £17,000, that contingency funds that I've put in, I'll take it back out. But my profit of £17,000, or sorry, my bank balance, of £17,000, I can take my 8,500 back, and then the profit will now look like that. It will go to 8,500. So I've taken my money back out. And now my contingency fund is nice and safe again. And then I can just cream off the profits off the top. And that's what we'll be doing moving forward. Okay, so contingency is super, super important to have 5% of the property value in your bank account for any unforeseen circumstances. Now, any questions on this at all, please put in the comment box, I'll answer them for you. And don't forget, I've done the individual videos for the 6 C's on the YouTube channel. So you can go to capital, you can go to cash flow, you can go to check, and you can watch those individual videos. So you haven't got to go through this big video again and try and find that exact pit. I've broken it up for you. But any questions at all, put in the comments box, and I look forward to answer those questions for you. Many thanks.